Maybe I should have deleted it just to keep the peace. But something in me refused. It wasn't about the number anymore. It was about not being controlled, about not letting love become a set of conditions I had to follow to be worthy of her affection. So I stayed silent. She stayed angry, and our home turned into a museum of unspoken things. Each night she'd pass by the couch without a word, heading to bed while I stayed under dim light, scrolling through meaningless feeds. The distance between us wasn't measured in feet anymore, was measured in things left unsaid. Sometimes I'd catch her standing in the doorway, watching me. Not for long, just a few seconds before she'd turn away. Maybe she wanted me to speak. Maybe she was testing how long I could hold my ground. Pride's funny like that tit, feels righteous until it starts feeling lonely. The third week came and went, and by then I'd stopped waiting for her to ask. I built a small world in that corner of the apartment, my laptop glowing like a campfire. Playlists of songs she used to love, the blanket she hated draped over me because it was the only one left. Every piece of clutter became proof of my independence and my stupidity all at once. On the 21st day, she finally broke the silence. I was half asleep when she entered the living room. She didn't yell. She just stood there, holding my phone, eyes red. "This what you've been hiding?" she asked, voice trembling. I looked at the screen. The last message I'd sent was open. "Hey sis, she still doesn't believe you exist." Her breath caught. For a moment, she looked small, fragile, like the walls around her had crumbled all at once. "Why didn't you just tell me?" she whispered. I smiled, bitterly. "Because you didn't want to listen." That stopped her cold. No defense. No anger. Just silence again, the kind that hums in your ears and makes you wish you'd chosen softer words. She sat down beside me without another word. Her head barely touched my shoulder. The same couch that had been a battlefield for weeks suddenly felt neutral, tired, but safe. We didn't talk. We just watched whatever random movie was on, some old romantic comedy she used to love. She laughed once, quietly, almost by accident. Then she wiped her eyes, embarrassed. "I almost left last week," she said. "I know," I replied. The words felt heavier than they sounded. There was a long pause before she asked, "Why didn't you fight for me?" I stared at the cracks on the floor tile. "Because I thought love wasn't something you had to prove every time someone doubted you." She twisted the ring on her finger. "And I thought if you really loved me, you'd prove it anyway." That hit deeper than I expected. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but I didn't. Instead, I just let the silence stretch until she leaned into me, head resting fully this time. "Your sister messaged me," she said after a while. "She sent me a photo of you two as kids, matching shirts and everything." I couldn't help laughing. She always had bad taste. That made her laugh too, soft but real. It was the first sound that didn't hurt in weeks. After that night, things didn't magically fix themselves. There were still moments when she'd pick up my phone and hesitate, still pauses that felt too long. But we started talking again. About small things at first, the weather, dinner plans. Bills, then the harder truths. Why we fought, what we feared, and how close we came to losing it all. Slowly, I moved my stuff back into the bedroom. Not just my things, but parts of myself I'd left behind. The couch went back to being just a couch. One night, as we lay side by side, she whispered, "Next time, don't build another room to run away." I smiled in the dark. "Then don't make me sleep on the couch." She smiled too, and for the first time in a long while, it felt like we were breathing the same air again. Love didn't end with silence, after all. It ended when neither of us was willing to speak first. That night, both of us did. 6 months passed, and somehow, without either of us realizing when it happened, peace slipped quietly back into our lives. The couch became just another piece of furniture again, no longer a fortress, no longer a symbol of stubbornness. The walls stopped echoing with silence, and the air inside our apartment didn't feel sharp anymore. We were calm. Not perfect, but calm. We started cooking dinner together again, arguing about whether to add garlic before or after the onions, fighting over playlists while washing dishes, the kind of ordinary chaos that used to feel impossible when we were at war. For the first time in a long while, I felt like we'd made it, survived the storm and come out breathing. But love, I've learnt, doesn't end with one fight. It waits, quiet, testing you when you least expect it. One evening, she came home later than usual. I was tuning my guitar on the couch, the soft hum filling the room when she walked in, hair slightly damp from the rain. "Guess who I ran into?" she said, dropping her bag onto the counter. Her tone was too casual, like she'd practiced it. "Who?" I asked, not looking up yet. "Evan, my ex." Just a name. 2 syllables. But it landed like a stone dropped in still water, sending small ripples through everything. She smiled faintly, like she was trying too hard to make it sound normal. "He just moved back to the city," she continued. "We talked for a bit, caught up. It was nice." I forced a smile. "That's nice." She didn't notice the stiffness in my voice. Or maybe she did and pretended not to. She kept talking about how he asked about her work, about how mature the conversation was. And all the while, I nodded, making all the right sounds. "Yeah, oh really, that's good," while something in my chest began to tighten. I hated that it did. I hated that I still had that in me, jealousy, the ugly shadow that crept in even when you thought you'd grown past it. That night, she fell asleep before I did. I stared at the ceiling for a long time, trying to convince myself it didn't matter. But the thought lingered, whispering. Would she tell me if he texted her again? Would she laugh at his jokes the way she used to laugh at mine? Around midnight, I picked up her phone. My hand trembled, even though I hadn't done this in months. I didn't have a reason, no notification, no suspicion, just fear. Fear that maybe, somehow, karma was circling back to remind me of my own silence months ago. There was nothing there. No messages, no missed calls, nothing to find. And instead of feeling relieved, I felt worse. Because that meant the problem wasn't her. It was me. 2 days later, she caught me. "You don't trust me?" she asked quietly. Her voice wasn't angry. That made it worse. I hesitated. "Do you trust me?" She didn't answer right away. She looked at me for a long time, eyes tired, calm, almost sad. "I do," she said finally. "But trusting you doesn't mean I'm never scared." I stared at her, not sure how to respond. It wasn't an accusation. It was truth, the kind that hurt because it was too real to argue with. That night, instead of letting it turn into another fight, we talked. Not perfectly, not gently, but honestly. About everything. About jealousy, about insecurity, about how love can make people both brave and terrified at the same time. We talked about the things we'd never said before, how she'd felt invisible when I shut her out, how I'd felt cornered when she doubted me, Every sentence was like peeling off old scabs, raw but necessary. The night stretched into morning. We were exhausted, eyes puffy, voices low. But for once, we didn't feel like enemies. Just two people sitting in the wreckage of what they'd built, choosing to rebuild anyway. As dawn light crept in through the blinds, she reached for my hand. Her palm was warm, trembling slightly. "Maybe love isn't about being sure," she whispered. "Maybe it's about choosing anyway." I looked at her, messy hair, tired eyes, a face I knew too well. "Then I choose you," I said. I didn't say it as a promise. I said it as a decision, a daily one. One I knew I'd have to keep making every single day, even when it was hard, even when I didn't feel like it. In the weeks that followed, something shifted between us. We stopped trying to be perfect and started trying to be honest. Some days were good. Some were messy. Some nights she'd get quiet again, and I'd feel that familiar pull of pride tempting me to stay silent. But then I'd remember her words. "Maybe it's about choosing anyway," and I'd reach for her hand first. We didn't go back to who we were before. We couldn't, but maybe that was the point. Maybe love doesn't go backward. It either grows into something new or it dies. And somehow, against the odds, ours grew. 6 months after that night, I found myself smiling more than I used to. Not because everything was perfect, but because it was real. We'd seen the worst of each other and stayed. And sometimes, that's the closest thing to forever you can get. A year later, everything felt quieter, not in the empty way silence once meant, but in the settled, steady rhythm that comes when two people finally stop holding their breath. We hadn't gotten married yet, though our parents had started asking when. We didn't rush to answer. We'd stopped treating forever like a race to win and started treating it like something to build. Slowly, one morning at a time. Every day began the same way now. She'd make coffee first, black and bitter, just how she liked it. Then she'd pour mine extra milk, no sugar, hand it over without a word, but with that half smile that said, "We're good." Tiny peace treaties in ceramic cups. Sometimes she'd sit beside me while I played guitar, humming along softly, off-key but fearless. Other times, she'd curl up in the corner with a book and let the music fill the room. It was ordinary, and that ordinariness was a miracle compared to what we'd survived. We had learned a few rules since the days of silent battles. Rule 1, pause before speaking. Rule 2, listen all the way through. Rule 3, if something hurts, say it before it grows teeth. We didn't always succeed, but we kept trying. Love, we realized, isn't something that fixes you. It's something that asks you to fix yourself so you can stay. One rainy evening, thunder rolling like old memories outside. We ended up on the couch again, that same couch where everything had fallen apart once. She leaned her head on my shoulder and said quietly, "Do you ever think about how close we came to losing everything?" "Every day," I told her, "and maybe that's why we haven't." She smiled that small, knowing smile that doesn't need witnesses. For a while, we just listened to the rain. It sounded different now, calmer, kinder. Then she pulled something from her sweater pocket, a small box, plain and soft, at the corners from being carried around. She placed it in my hand. Inside was a single key. "To what?" I asked, turning it over. "The new place," she said. "It's small. 1 bedroom. No guest room." She paused, eyes flicking up to mine. "And no couch big enough to sleep on alone." My throat tightened before I could laugh. "You sure about that?" I'm done making rules that push you away, she said. I just want to make space for you to stay. For a second, the whole room went still. Just the sound of the rain and her breathing, both steady, both real. That's when I understood love doesn't die from fights. It dies when people forget why they fought in the first place. I reached for her hand, the same hand that once pointed me toward the couch. Then let's go home, I said. We didn't move right away. We just sat there, holding hands, letting the moment stretch out. Outside, lightning flickered against the window, turning everything silver for half a second, her hair, my face, the couch between us. And for that brief flash, I saw us exactly as we were, imperfect, weathered, but still there. The next morning, we packed together. Not much, just clothes, books, her favorite mug, my guitar. Everything else could come later. She taped the last box, looked around the room one last time, and said, "You know, this place almost killed us. Then it also saved us," I said. We moved into the new apartment the next day. It was smaller, but the light was better. The walls still smelled of fresh paint. The bedroom window faced east, so every sunrise spilled across the bed like gold. We built new routines there. I learned to drink my coffee a little darker. She learned to let me finish my thoughts before interrupting. We still argued sometimes, still misunderstood each other, still had moments when pride whispered old lies. But now, one of us always spoke first. That was our new rule. Never let silence win. Months passed. One night, I woke up to find her sitting at the window, staring at the city lights. "Can't sleep?" I asked. She shook her head. "I was just thinking how different things could have been if I'd walked out that night." I got up, wrapped my arms around her from behind. "Then we'd both be drinking bad coffee alone somewhere," I whispered, "and you'd still hate my blanket." She laughed, soft and sleepy. I'd still hate it. We stood there for a while, watching the city breathe below us. The rain started again, gentle this time. She turned, rested her forehead against mine, and said, "You know, I think this is it." "What is?" I asked. "Peace," she said. "Not the kind where nothing happens, the kind where things happen and we stay." I kissed her then, slow and quiet, like punctuation at the end of a long sentence we'd both fought hard to finish. And that's how I knew love doesn't need forever to be real. It just needs two people brave enough to keep showing up. Every morning, every argument, every imperfect day. The rain kept falling, steady and soft, as we turned off the lights and went to bed. No distance left, no rooms apart, just one space big enough for both our hearts to rest.